Mere exposure effect. The mere exposure effect describes our tendency to develop a preference for things simply because we are familiar with them. This psychological phenomenon suggests that the more we are exposed to something, whether it's a song, a face, or a brand, the more we tend to like it. This effect occurs because familiarity breeds comfort. We find comfort in what we know, and this comfort translates into a preference. This is why companies frequently advertise their products. Repeated exposure can make us favor one product over another, even if we're not aware of it. The mere exposure effect has profound implications in marketing, social relationships, and decision-making processes. It highlights the power of repetition in shaping our preferences and suggests that sometimes our likes and dislikes may be less about intrinsic qualities of things and more about simple familiarity. Understanding this effect can help us make more conscious choices about what we choose to surround ourselves with daily. Negativity bias. Negativity bias is the psychological tendency to pay more attention to and give more weight to negative experiences or information than to positive ones. This bias means that something negative typically has a greater impact on a person's psychological state and processes than something equally positive. For instance, the discomfort from a single criticism may overshadow the pleasure from several compliments. This bias has evolutionary roots, as paying attention to potential threats was crucial for survival. In modern times, though, negativity bias can lead to a distorted view of the world, where the bad seems more prevalent than the good. Understanding this bias is crucial for mental health, as it can help individuals balance their perspective and reduce the undue influence of negative information, leading to a more balanced and healthy outlook on life.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Not invented here syndrome. Not invented here syndrome is a bias wherein individuals or organizations avoid using ideas, products, or standards developed outside their group. This often stems from the desire to promote and use internal creations to showcase their capability or from a mistrust in external innovations. The syndrome can lead to significant inefficiencies and missed opportunities, as it may prevent the adoption of superior solutions that could improve performance or outcomes. For businesses, this means potentially higher costs and less innovation, while for individuals, it might mean sticking to less effective or familiar methods or tools. Recognizing and overcoming this bias can lead to more open-minded decisions and can foster better collaboration and innovation by integrating the best available ideas, regardless of their origin. Optimism bias. Optimism bias is a cognitive bias that causes a person to believe they are less likely to experience a negative event compared to others. This bias can influence how people gauge risks in everyday decisions, from driving a car to smoking cigarettes. People with a high optimism bias may underestimate the likelihood of getting into a car accident or developing health issues from smoking. While this bias can encourage positive thinking and can lead to increased motivation and resilience, it can also lead to poor decision-making due to underestimating risks. Recognizing optimism bias is crucial for risk assessment and management in various aspects of life, including health, finance, and personal decisions. Being aware of this bias helps individuals make more realistic assessments and better prepare for potential challenges. Overconfidence Effect. The overconfidence effect is a well-established bias where an individual's subjective confidence in their judgments is greater than their objective accuracy. This effect is often seen in people's confidence in their knowledge, skills, or control over situations. For example, a person might be overly confident about their driving skills or their understanding of complex financial markets. This overconfidence can lead to taking greater risks and making decisions without adequate preparation or consideration of potential outcomes. It's particularly prevalent in settings where the individual has some knowledge but not enough to see their own limitations. Awareness of the overconfidence effect is crucial because it encourages a more humble, cautious approach to decision-making and can lead to better outcomes in both personal and professional contexts. Halo effect. The halo effect is a cognitive bias where our overall impression of a person influences how we feel and think about their character and abilities. Essentially, if we like one aspect of something or someone, we tend to have a positive predisposition toward everything about them. For example, if someone is attractive, we may instinctively assume they are also kind, intelligent, and honest. This phenomenon extends beyond physical appearance to any single positive trait, such as sociability or professionalism. This bias is not just a social nicety, it has real-world implications. In professional settings, for instance, a person's appearance or brief initial behavior can impact hiring decisions, performance reviews, and leadership assessments. In education, teachers may rate students more favorably in all areas if they excel in one. This can lead to unequal opportunities and judgments that are not based on comprehensive evidence. Understanding the halo effect helps us question our initial judgments and aim to separate our assessments in different areas. By being aware of this bias, we can strive to make more objective decisions and interact more fairly with others, recognizing that one positive trait does not necessarily correlate with others. Hindsight bias. Hindsight bias is our tendency to see past events as having been predictable and often inevitable after they have happened. This bias can make us believe that we knew the outcome of an event before it occurred, even if there was no way of predicting it. For example, after an election, people often claim that they knew who would win, despite prior uncertainties. This bias is not just about claiming we knew it all along, it affects learning and decision-making processes. It can lead to overconfidence in our ability to predict future events and may prevent us from accurately analyzing why things happened as they did. In domains like finance or healthcare, where decision-making is critical, such a bias can lead to significant misjudgments and errors. By understanding and acknowledging hindsight bias, we can better appreciate the complexity of events and improve our ability to plan and make decisions without overestimating our predictive powers. This involves recognizing the randomness in outcomes and the limits of our knowledge, which can foster more humble and effective approaches to both personal and professional challenges. In-group bias. In-group bias is a powerful psychological tendency where individuals favor members of their own group, whether defined by race, gender, nationality, or even favorite sports teams. This bias manifests in our tendency to attribute positive characteristics and outcomes to the qualities of our group, while negative outcomes are often blamed on external factors. This can strengthen solidarity within a group but can also lead to conflict and misunderstanding between different groups. For instance, in workplaces, this bias can lead to preferential treatment of individuals who share similar backgrounds with decision-makers, affecting hiring and promotion processes. In extreme cases, it can contribute to sectarianism or nationalism, fueling conflict and division within societies. Awareness of in-group bias encourages us to reflect on how our affiliations might influence our judgments and behaviors. By actively seeking to understand and integrate diverse perspectives, we can mitigate the effects of this bias, promoting a more inclusive and equitable environment in both personal and professional spheres. Just world hypothesis. The just world hypothesis is a belief that the world is inherently fair, leading people to rationalize or dismiss injustices that don't fit this narrative. This bias can cause individuals to believe that everyone gets what they deserve, which helps to maintain a sense of predictability and control in life. However, this belief can lead to victim blaming and a lack of empathy, as people may assume that those who suffer misfortunes must have done something to deserve them. For example, it can affect our response to social issues like poverty or illness, where those in unfortunate situations might be seen as responsible for their plight. This bias is not only harmful to those who suffer but also impedes social change by reducing motivation to address or rectify unjust situations. Recognizing this bias can help foster a more compassionate and realistic understanding of the complexities of life. It encourages us to question our assumptions about fairness and justice and to actively engage in helping those in need, rather than dismissing their suffering as deserved. Loss aversion. Loss aversion refers to our tendency to prefer avoiding losses to acquiring equivalent gains. The pain of losing something is psychologically twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining something of similar value. This bias can significantly influence human behavior, particularly in financial decisions, risk assessment, and negotiation scenarios. For instance, in investing, this can lead to irrational decision-making such as holding on to losing stocks to avoid realizing a loss, or avoiding new investments that could lead to gains but also carry a risk of loss. In personal decisions, loss aversion might make us stick to familiar but less beneficial habits rather than trying new potentially rewarding activities. Understanding and managing loss aversion can lead to more balanced decision-making. By recognizing this bias, individuals can evaluate choices more objectively, focusing on potential gains as well as potential losses, and thereby make decisions that are more aligned with their long-term goals and benefits. Confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is the psychological tendency to seek, interpret, and remember information in a way that confirms what we already believe. This bias affects our ability to think critically and objectively because we give more attention and weight to evidence that supports our views, and neglect or discredit information that contradicts them. For instance, if someone believes that a particular political party is always correct, they are more likely to focus on news that praises the party and ignore news that criticizes it. This bias isn't just about reinforcing our existing beliefs, it shapes how we gather and recall information, which can lead to skewed perceptions and decisions. It occurs because it is psychologically easier to process information that aligns with our beliefs, reducing cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort experienced when holding two or more contradictory beliefs. Understanding and acknowledging confirmation bias is crucial for developing critical thinking skills. It prompts us to actively seek out and evaluate opposing viewpoints, leading to more balanced and informed decisions. This is particularly important in areas like science, journalism, and law, where objectivity is key to accuracy and fairness. Dunning-Kruger Effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias in which people with limited knowledge or ability in a particular area greatly overestimate their own expertise. Typically, this occurs because lacking expertise and knowledge means they are also unable to recognize their own mistakes and deficiencies. For example, someone who has just started learning about economics might feel confident enough to expertly discuss complex economic policies, not realizing their understanding is superficial. This effect can lead to significant consequences in both personal and professional settings. Overconfident individuals may take risks or make decisions without understanding the challenges involved, potentially leading to failures. Conversely, highly competent individuals might underestimate their skills, thinking tasks that are easy for them are equally easy for others. Recognizing the Dunning-Kruger effect can help in personal development and in managing teams effectively. It teaches us the importance of feedback, continuous learning, and the humility needed to question our own abilities and knowledge constantly. It reminds us that true expertise often comes with an awareness of how much there is still to learn. Fundamental attribution error. The fundamental attribution error is a common psychological bias where we tend to attribute other people's actions to their character or personality, while attributing our own behaviors to situational factors. For example, if someone cuts us off in traffic, we might think they are rude or aggressive by nature. However, if we cut someone off, we might justify it by saying we were late or didn't see the other car. This error occurs because we have more information about our own circumstances and less about others. It leads to misunderstandings and misjudgments about others' intentions and behaviors, which can affect personal relationships and workplace dynamics. Understanding this bias can improve social interactions and reduce conflicts. It encourages us to consider external factors that may be influencing others' behaviors before jumping to conclusions about their character. This can foster more empathy and patience in our interactions, creating a more understanding and cooperative social environment.